So I was a little apprehensive going into the whole process because plastics is something that has a stigma to it. And especially in the areas that I grew up, it had a very heavy stigma, like, oh, you're going to get plastic surgery, you want to be a Barbie doll, or you're trying to obtain perfection. And I think that for most people, it's not about that at all.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Grant Stevens. Welcome to the Technology of Beauty, where we talk to the movers and shakers in the beauty business, all things aesthetics. And today we have a very, very special guest. Her name is Brittany Williams. Welcome, Brittany.
Thanks for having me.
And she has a very, very wonderful, unique, motivating story that I want her to share with all of you. First, I want to note that she's been on Good Morning America, the Today Show, the local news, the 700 Club. She's been featured in People magazine, in Good Housekeeping, and various other shows and publications. She's a motivational speaker, a noted author, an authority in what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome, Brittany.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so delighted to have you here. Would you please start off by telling us about your first two books? What's the name of the first two books that you authored?
Sure. So I'm the national best-selling author of the Instant Loss Cookbook series. So my first book is called Instant Loss Cookbook. It has 125 recipes for your Instant Pot pressure cooker and more. My second book is called Instant Loss Eat Real, Lose Weight, and we really dig into how to make a weight loss a sustainable lifestyle change instead of just a temporary diet fix. A lot of these 30-day, get skinny fast schemes. It's not about that. It's really about eating real food in modest portion sizes, and I walk you through it as somebody who's done it herself and really knows the insides and outs. So that's my second book. And then at the end of this year, 2020, Instant Loss on a Budget will come out, where I show you how you can eat well even if you have a very, very slim budget.
That's wonderful. What's an Instant Pot?
An Instant Pot is an electric pressure cooker. So I am a busy mom of 3, chasing kids around all the time. And one of my biggest excuses for not eating well was that I didn't have the time. And it really solved the time conundrum for me. You can throw anything into this pot and have dinner on the table in under 30 minutes, even if you're cooking from frozen. And it's fabulous.
That's fantastic. I'm going to have to get one on the way home.
Yeah.
An Instant Pot. I've never heard of it. So you've been very generous in your story. I follow you on Instagram. You mentioned that you've actually lost a significant amount of weight and that your journey. So I'd like to talk about that a little bit. How much weight have you actually lost?
So I lost 125 pounds, just eating real food, no surgery, no exercise. I really focused on the nutrition. And then I lost 5 additional pounds with skin removal surgery.
Excellent. And over what time period did you lose the 125 pounds?
In 1 year.
Okay. That's remarkable. And that's by eliminating processed foods, or what's the secret there?
I like to keep it simple. So I was on this unending, never-ending diet train for 15 years of my life, where I was willing to do anything to lose weight and try any diet, and I would just kind of hop from one bandwagon to the next. And when I decided to kind of stop BSing myself and just get real and kind of look back to how people did things before we had the massive obesity epidemic on our hands, I realized that we really overcomplicate something that's very, very simple. Really, all the things that we need to consume are already here on the earth for us. So that's kind of how I judge what I eat. If it comes from the earth, if it's minimally processed or not processed at all, I consume it. If it's something that's made in a laboratory or man-made, I might opt for something different.
How would we know?
So label reading is something that you really want to familiarize yourself with. It does take a little bit of time, but what I tell people is you can look for 3 ingredients on any box or something that you're buying in the store. And if it has those 3 things, maybe stay away. So the 3 things that I initially decided to stay away from were high fructose corn syrup, or corn syrups in general, and dyes, food dyes, so like yellow dye, red dye, anything that had dyes in it. I was going to maybe opt for something different. And then I started paying attention to the oils in the food. Was it an oil that was like a natural oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, or olive oil? Or was it something that was maybe a little bit more processed, like vegetable oil or a safflower oil, something like that? And so I generally stay away from the more processed oils and head toward the more whole oils. And that's going to cut out a lot of the foods in the grocery store already. So you don't necessarily have to know what every single thing on each and every label means. If you can kind of just stay away from the heavy hitters, it's going to eliminate a lot of those foods that might be causing issues within your body.
Do you count calories?
I don't. So I've counted calories in the past, and I counted macros. Like I said, I was a serial dieter. I've tried everything out there, literally. But counting calories didn't work for me. It worked in the sense that it worked when I was doing it, but it wasn't something that I could sustain long term. And so that's what I always push with people, is that you have to find something that you can sustain for the rest of your life. Because if you're counting calories, if you're counting macros, and if this isn't something that you can continue to keep up, then what's the use? Because as soon as you stop doing it, you're going to regress, you're going to regain all the weight, and maybe even more, which was always my habit. So I stopped trying to count calories, realizing that people were a lot healthier before we had all of these calorie tracking apps. We didn't have this obesity problem before we had all of these apps. I'm not saying that these apps cause it, but what I am saying is they can be helpful, but they can be harmful too, because they can kind of put us in this mentality, this diet mindset that, oh, I'm going to do this for this specified time frame, and then there's going to be a time where it ends and I don't do this anymore. But what happens after? And so instead I began to familiarize myself with what portions we need to be eating, what portion sizes. And there is a guide by the Arizona State Nutrition University, and they talk about eating in regards to your hands.
I've heard about that.
Yeah.
Remind me how that works again.
It's fascinating. So they talk about protein, and the amount of protein that we should be eating at any given time is only about 3 grams, and that's going to be about what fits in the palm of your hand. So when you're eating a piece of chicken, or when you're eating steak, or when you're eating, and you'll notice your hand is bigger than mine, you're going to need to consume. That's good.
I get more than you do.
You do, because your body is larger naturally. You're a man, I'm a woman, and so you're going to need to consume more to keep your body going, to provide the energy that your body needs to sustain your body. So for me, I'm going to have a little bit smaller, you're going to have a little bit larger, and that's just how we were built, you know?
Okay.
When we're talking about greens or unstarchy vegetables, salads and broccoli, we're going to want 2 hands cupped together. That's about 2 cups.
Okay, and this is at one meal.
This is one meal.
This is not per day.
This is not per day. Okay. So you're going to want like 2 hands cupped together. That's going to be about your portion sizes of your leafy greens. Is that
fruits and vegetables too? Okay.
Fruits, you're going to want 1 hand cupped,
okay,
because that's a little bit more sugar. That's a little bit more starchy carbohydrates, which is great. That's the energy that your body needs to keep going, to keep it moving. We just don't need necessarily as much of that. And then when you're talking about healthy fats, you're going to want a thumb size of healthy fats. So that's maybe the healthy oils that you're cooking your meats in, or your veggies in. You're only going to want about a thumb size, because we can either have one of 2 things in excess. We can have fats in excess or carbohydrates in excess. You know, when we have both of those things and we're eating the same amount, generally you're going to see a weight gain, because those are 2 energy sources. So whether you're high carb, whether you're high fat, you can be one or the other. It just depends on what's best for your body. So this goes into blood types. I mean, there's so much more that goes in here. I'm primarily plant-based. I'm a type A blood type, and so I run really, really well on carbohydrates. Type O blood types might run better on a fat-based diet. That's like the ketogenic diet.
I was going to ask you about the keto diet.
And so the keto diet is super, super popular right now. And there's a lot of blood types that really thrive on a ketogenic diet. Like I said, type O blood types. And that's because type O's are known to have more stomach acid. So they process things like red meat and meats in general and fats better than people that are maybe, say, type A blood type that have lower stomach acid content and don't process those things as well. So I always tell everybody, it's not one size fits all. We can't just blanketly say, keto is for everybody, plant-based is for everybody, this is for everybody. I mean, there's some universal truths. We should be eating less processed. We should be eating more foods that come from the earth and less that come from a laboratory. Mm-hmm. Yes, those are things that everybody universally can get behind. But then when it comes to each and every individual person, there are things that you need to dig into and begin to discover for yourself. And that's what I'm super passionate about, is empowering people to begin to take the reins of their own health and steer the ship where it needs to go. And that might look different for them than it did for me.
So do you recommend people get their blood typed before they start this?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a book called Eat Right for Your Blood Type, and it was super, super helpful for me. And I just felt like when I opened up that type A chapter, I felt like I was reading a story about myself. I'm like, yep, okay, that's what I'm sensitive to. Spot on. Yep, my body doesn't respond well when I eat that. And it was mind-blowing. So I highly recommend that book. It's a great place to start.
That's fantastic. Now, you've lost 130 pounds now. How much do you weigh, if I may ask? Is it around that number?
Yep, I'm 130 pounds now, and my highest weight after babies, so I was higher during pregnancy.
Sure.
But after babies was 260, So
you're half of what you were.
I am.
That's fantastic. Now, so you started you changed your diet, healthy lifestyle, eliminated the processed foods and all the things you said, and in approximately a year, you dropped 125 pounds. So you were a much smaller person, but you still had a lot of skin. You mentioned you had some skin surgery. Do you want to share that
absolutely.
with these listeners?
Yeah. So that's where you came into my journey, because I began to research. I had a DR that needed repair, my abdominal muscles. I had a separation, and
that's a diastasis recti, which people get with having children or weight. Even men can get them if they have big tummies and stuff.
Right. And I had a large overhang on my tummy area just from all the weight that I'd lost, and I've also had 6 pregnancies and 4 full-term births. So I just needed some help in that department, help that I couldn't give myself. So I was very passionate at first about not having surgery at all, because I really wanted to accomplish what I was trying to accomplish on my own. But the further that I got in my journey, I realized that sometimes you have to contract some help to hit your final goals. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you've cheated or that you're a failure or that you can't obtain everything that you want to obtain. It just means that sometimes we have to call in the professionals. And that's when I gave you a call and I said, hey, I've got some extra skin. It's not firming up with exercise. Then no matter how well I eat, it's just there, and I don't want to have to live with this. I'm only 30, and so I didn't want to have to live with it for the rest of my life, because it seriously hindered my well-being. I had rashes. It would cause friction while I was running. I was constantly having to bind my stomach and bind my legs very, very tightly so that I could exercise the way that I wanted to exercise. And I just thought, man, wouldn't it be nice to just run in shorts and a sports bra and not have to worry about all of this stuff pulling me down, because it physically pulled me down. And you know, I dealt with horrendous back pain for years and years that doctors blamed on, well, it's because you're so overweight. Well, I lost the weight and I still had the back pain. And poor Brady, my husband, was massaging my back every single night. And that was the only way that I could function every day. And I worked with a physical therapist who tried to heal my stomach muscles naturally. And we could not resolve it. And eventually they said this was only going to get resolved with surgery. And so I was a little apprehensive going into the whole process because plastics is something that has a stigma to it. And especially in the areas that I grew up, it had a very heavy stigma, like, oh, you're going to get plastic surgery, you want to be a Barbie doll, or you're trying to obtain perfection. And I think that for most people, it's not about that at all. It's just trying to be comfortable, just trying to live a normal, regular life that everybody else gets to live because they don't have to think about these things all the time. But me, my back pain, the extra skin pulling me down was something that I had to deal with and had to live with every single day. And you don't have to live with it if you don't want to. And so you were kind of like my angel in that sense, because I was able to call you up and say, hey, what can we do about this? And we consulted. And it's been over a span of 2 years that I've had all of my skin removed. I did it in pieces because I wasn't sure. I was like, well, let's just start with this. And then
So tell us about that. So you've had 2 surgeries.
Yeah.
You've had more than 2 surgeries,
Right.
2 events. So you go ahead and tell everybody what that looked like to you. I remember when you came in and talked to me.
Right.
And there are many people who feel the way you do, like somehow they're cheating. I know you didn't feel that way, but you had some people on your Instagram. We'll talk about that in a moment. But it's almost like, why can't I get rid of this skin? I don't really want to have a plastic surgeon. There's a stigma associated with it.
Right. And
you've touched on some of them, or that they're cheating. So you came in, you did the heavy work, you lost the weight, you had this extra skin. It's like an apron. It's like we call it a pannus. It's an apron hanging down from your abdomen. It's in your way. It's causing chafing and a rash and back pain and so forth. It's a quality of life issue.
Yeah.
And you came in and you told me the story. What did we do first? And then we'll get to 2 years later.
So we did the Drainless tummy tuck first, which was incredible. And I know that we talked about, there was another surgeon that I was looking at first, but he did drains and you did Drainless. And the idea of doing it Drainless just made so much sense to me. So I did a lot of research and I decided that Drainless was the only way that I wanted to go. And so we did the Drainless tummy tuck, and man, life-changing. And everybody told me, oh, recovery's going to be awesome, but I'm a 4-time cesarean mom. Recovery wasn't even as bad as one of my cesareans.
No.
It was a very, very breezy recovery, and I attribute some of that to my diet, but I attribute a lot of it to the type of procedure that I had, which was Drainless. I think that a lot of people have a really difficult time because of the drains and just having open holes in your body. It just, yikes.
There are a number of things too. We don't put any stitches in that have to come out. We use Espiral at the end, which is a long-acting anesthetic. We don't use urinary catheters. So you're up and walking that first night. You'll recall when you went to the aftercare, you were walking that night and walking thereafter. And so the recovery is very, very, I wouldn't say easy, but it's a lot better than urban legend would have a person believe, right?
I would definitely say easy, though.
Okay. Well, maybe it was easier for you. I'm not going to go that far.
I know.
Okay, so you get rid of that extra tissue.
Yeah.
And your life is improved. And 2 years later, you came back into my office.
I did.
And why'd you come back?
I came back. So I lost all of my weight without exercise. And then over the last 2 years, I've implemented exercise. It's part of my daily routine and I love it. It's something that I very much enjoy now. And so I had some extra skin issues again on my back, my posterior, on my bottom, and then on my thighs. And I really felt like my top half didn't really match my bottom half. I felt very disproportionate, especially after having my tummy done. And so after my tummy, I said, oh, I'll never do another surgery. I'm good. I think that things are fine now. But getting further along in my journey, I realized that I did want to have some more revisive work done. So this last surgery that we just did was a posterior lift, which the way that you did it, I've never seen another surgeon do it this way. And the scars that I have that kind of form a little heart around my buttocks, everybody just thinks that it's the bee's knees, that it's the coolest thing. And it makes so much sense, again, because it's like the natural curvature of my body. And
Right.
I love that you pay attention to that. You're a real artist in that way. And same thing with my thighs. The scars are hidden so well, you can't really see them from the back side. You can't see them from the front side at all. You'd be hard pressed to tell that I had surgery at all on my thighs.
Well, I thought it was really interesting, and I'd encourage all of you to go to her Instagram site. You were so generous in sharing with all of your followers. How many followers do you have, incidentally?
I think,
roughly now.
I think we're near 140,000, something like that.
140,000 followers. And the cameraman just went on, it looks like. In any event, I encourage you to go there. Not that she needs you to follow her, but to look at the picture she shared with her followers, where she's demonstrating on boomerang her thighs going back and forth, and her posterior, that's the lower back area, upper buttocks area. She was so generous sharing with her followers, her viewers, the extra skin that was getting in the way. Mm-hmm. And the first part of the weight loss was with diet. Mm-hmm. And then you spent 2 years doing exercise and strengthening your core and the muscles. And I think that's key to keep that in mind, that you didn't start exercising really till after you lost a lot of the weight.
Right.
And then you really took an interest, a renewed interest in the health of your body. And then you came in, got the first surgery, or got the second surgery, and you're how far out now?
Oh my goodness, how many weeks? 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
Yeah, 5 weeks.
So here she sits 5 weeks after we removed, 10 pounds, would you say?
Yeah, it was like a near 12. It was like 11.8, I think, was the total.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did really well. And as you mentioned, it's really important to put the scars in the right place and close it the right way. Again, no drains.
Yep.
Again, Espiral. Again, early ambulation or walking shortly after surgery. And I've been on your Instagram site. You've allowed me to, and I've enjoyed it. And I've seen some of the naysayers, what we call sometimes the haters. Yeah. And you push back, and then your followers push back.
Right.
It's when people have worked this hard to lose weight, to then avail themselves to the technology of beauty, mm-hmm. to the technologies that people like myself, board-certified plastic surgeons, have, which we uniquely have, and we can help with that journey to get rid of that extra skin that is causing back pain and causing rashes and interfering with exercises.
Right.
So I think it's really important to stress that this is a healthy approach to weight loss, and not that somehow it's cheating. You chose to lose the weight, in a very rational and reproducible and long-term way. Some people choose surgery to lose the weight with various sleeves and bands and so forth. Yeah. Some crash diet and so forth, and it might be good for some people, but it's not sustainable for most of us or most people, right?
Right.
What sort of advice, in addition to what you've said already, what sort of advice would you have for our listeners today, either about the weight loss or even about the surgical procedure? Because I only know it from this side of the white coat, mm-hmm. from this side of the scalpel.
Right.
And you know it from the other side. So what would you say to people listening who might be contemplating it or might be looking at you like you're a little weird, maybe, that you had someone cut on you?
Right. I think that the main thing and the big takeaway from my journey is that you can't hate your way to happiness. You can't do it. It's not possible. Whether you dislike something about your person because, of the weight, or maybe it's a physical attribute that you want to change. There's nothing wrong in wanting to change yourself. Like, I think change is a very, very positive thing, especially when it's regarding our health. But we can't do it from a place of hate. We have to do it from a place of self-love. And that's where I started in making all of these decisions for myself, in eating better, in exercising, and yes, in getting skin removal surgery. I didn't do it because I hated myself or I couldn't stand to look at myself. I did it because I loved myself, and I knew that long term it was the best thing and the best choice for my body and my own mental well-being. And so I always encourage everybody to start from a place of love. Don't start from a place of dislike or distaste or hate, mm-hmm. and you're going to have a much better outcome overall.
That's great advice. And I know you have the support of Brady, your husband, and you have 3 beautiful children, a supportive family. I know your mother's a nurse, and you've been surrounded by love and motivation. Well, it's been wonderful to talk to you. Are there any other things you'd like to share with us at all? Or either my listeners and watchers, your wonderful supporters on Instagram. In fact, why don't we share your Instagram address? We'll start with that.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So you can find me at Instant Loss on Instagram, on Facebook. We have a Facebook community of over 140,000 members.
Is that at Instant Loss also?
It's called the instantloss.com community on Facebook, and we have so many listeners and people on there who have experienced the same sort of success that I have and are at a place where they're contemplating skin removal surgeries now. We have people who are just starting their journeys, people who have lost 200 plus pounds, who are off diabetes medication, who have gone off cholesterol medication. It's
the blood pressure is down.
Blood pressure down.
Heart disease down.
Yeah, I put an autoimmune disease in remission myself. I was on hypothyroid medication for over 10 years, and just by changing my diet, about 4 months in, I was able to go 100% off all medication, and I've been in remission for over 2 years. So food matters. I can't stress that enough. It really matters. The way that we treat our body, the way that we talk to it, the way that we feed it, the way that we nourish it, all of these things, they matter. And we have a Facebook community who can tell you their stories themselves, and we welcome you with open arms if you'd like to join us there. And you can also find more information about me and my personal journey and recipes on instantloss.com.
That's wonderful, and I want to thank you very much. And I also want to point out that this surgery is very important, and you should always go to a board-certified plastic surgeon, preferably a member of the Aesthetic Society or the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. All of the members are board-certified plastic surgery. There's clearly risks and complications with any surgery, but experience matters, education matters, and you can see right here from this wonderful, lovely, intelligent Brittany Williams that it can be done in a way in which it's safe, and you can have a result like you have 5 weeks later. Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you very much. And thank you all for joining me on the Technology of Beauty. We look forward to seeing you next time.